Good morning, everyone. So here's my current project slash dilemma. I want to change out welders. I'm going to go with an AHP, the newer one that actually has a water cooler. I want a water-cooled torch. So that's going to replace this setup. This welder is actually going to go in my mobile rig. So this is a basic little Harbor Freight welding cart. Actually, pretty nice little cart. Not terribly expensive, decent make to it. The handles are real comfortable to grab it, move it around the shop. It's got a couple of accessory hooks on the side. Makes it easy to hang up most of the stuff you need. On top of it, when I bought this, I also added a toolbox. I wanted something to the side for consumables, extra parts, things like that. So I got this little toolbox that came on the bottom of a stool. I've got a video about putting this together. I'll link below. But the problem now is I either need to get a new cart, build a new cart, or modify this cart, because the water cooler for the torch is 10 by 14 by 18 and it will not fit down into that little area. So my plan is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the toolbox. I don't need it. I can set it right on the workbench beside it or put the items down in there. I'm going to raise the main base up of the welder just about 4 inches, I think, and then reconfigure this to put the cooler into the bottom. So first part's going to be get everything off the cart, get it where I can look at it, make some assessments on it, put it on the workbench, and we'll go from there. So here we go. Here is the welding cart. It's Vulcan. Got it from Harbor Freight. It's been a pretty decent cart. I have my ESOB Rebel set up on it for TIG. And stays pretty close to my workbench, so, or my actual welding table. Doesn't have to be really moved around a whole lot, so it's close by. But now that I have the water cooler and the welder sitting back there to go on the cart, I need to make different use of this. Turns out I don't really go into this toolbox that much. It's handy for some applications. I can put my consumables and parts in a drawer nearby as well. Pretty much it's convenient. So I can lose this right here. It's not as big of a deal. However, it's kind of a neat concept. So I'm going to put a link to this video below where I built it. The main thing is we got to see the dimensions we're dealing with here to see how well we're going to fit. So first off, the main dimensions I'm concerned about is width and height. The length should be fine. We are at 10 inches wide, and total height we were at 13. So in the tray of the cart, we have 11 inches. So the width of the tray is just fine. The front's going to get occluded a little bit. The front here is right at 10, so it's going to be right at it. I don't intend to quick connect that much. It can sit back here a bit. Also, this little part right here, there's a tray in there and a little toolbox that came with it. I don't have to have that either, so I can lose that. Like I said, the main concern I have here is the height. Overall, from here to here, I barely have 13 inches on that height. So my first thought is going to be, let me just take this part out right here. I'll take this tool tray out and just see how well this may slide in. I think we're going to be too tight, but I'm going to give it a shot. Next option is going to be removing, let's see if I can get the camera right, sorry. So this tray sits on these support rails. These support rails come up from the side and support this tray. I'm going to see how strong the tray is on its own. Again, that welder back there is not terribly heavy. So what I may do is just simply bring the tray up a couple of inches and button it in right here. I can put a couple of screws and bolts through these arms. I'll actually strengthen the arms a little bit. Button that in there, and same with the back, bring the screws across and bolt it. I think just coming up a couple inches will help. So again, first choice, we're gonna see if she fits in there after I take that toolbox out. Secondly, we'll see if I can just raise the whole tray up without a whole lot of support. If I feel like I need support, I'm only coming up a couple inches, I could put a little 2x3 rec tubing, a couple blocks of it to give it some more support if needed, but should be a fairly simple build. Let's see how it goes. So I've got to remove these drawers to get to the hardware where I put the fasteners in the bottom. Little quick tip, I had a hard time figuring out these little slide releases. First time I ever messed with them. If someone out there needs a little bit of help, there's a little black tab right there. One side moves down, the other side pulls up, and when you do that, you just kind of push back, pop it, and it'll come right out. The ends here are tapered, You just put these back in like this, slide in, kind of catch it. It takes a bit of force, but once you pop it in there, you're locked in again. So hopefully, if anybody out there has trouble with those things, it'll give you a little bit of help. So I've got it standing up on its end right here. Basically 2 bolts that I put in here, and the bottom of that little toolbox hold it on, and then I've got a couple screws right here at the front, just kind of shot in through there to help hold it in place. Again, it doesn't take a lot of force in opening and closing it, and honestly, it just sits in here. Its weight holds it down quite a bit. So I'm just going to pull those 4 fasteners out, and it will be free of the cart. So here's the next challenge. The case width is exactly 10 inches. This opening right here is 10 1/8. Not bad, it fits, right? Except it's got case screws. And these easily sit up about 3/16, so it will not slide in. More importantly, even once I try to get it in there, it won't come down from the top. So, looking at this, also the height's not good enough back here. What I'm gonna do is basically kind of re-engineer this cart a little bit. This is one entire curved piece. It basically makes the frame of the cart. The whole purpose is make it simple, throw it together, and then you can have a little welder on it and be up and running. What I'm gonna do, since this right here is part of the reinforcement between the front and the back to make this more rigid, what I'm gonna do is cut. There's a fastener right here. This goes through this way. I'm gonna cut right there. I'm gonna remove this piece. I'm gonna move it to the outside. I'll put a bolt through here, or I might even just tack weld it, and I'm gonna weld it up right there. Put this through, move it to the back so it'll still provide support from here to here. It's going to be on the outside. Then that's going to leave this area open. I should be able to just drop the water cooler in from there. I actually should be able to just slide it out from the bottom. I'll make sure in case it breaks or I have to refill it or something, just slide it out to the side. Then this tray, I can basically freely connect it on the 4 corners, and this is pretty rigid material, rigid enough I do believe for that. If it's not strong enough, I could always come underneath and put just like a vertical piece of, say, 1 inch, tack welded a few spots. That'll provide some rigidity to this if I need it. I don't think I'm going to, because even with all this, nothing in it, that other welder is close to 60 pounds, so it holds it up just fine. So next, I'm gonna take this top tray out, I'm gonna cut these and move them to the outside, and we'll go from there. Here's the first kind of dry fit. So I made the cut these off. The cooler slides right in from the side, plenty of room right there, so I can slide it in and then slide it back out. So I'm gonna cut that piece, then I moved it up to here. This is gonna be my side support. They actually have, so you get this is in the video, they actually have a captive nut right there, welded in nut. So what I'll do is just, since I already have the hardware right here for it, there's the bolts that fit through here, is just drill a hole through, retain that hardware. This will be plenty above the top of the case. Case is gonna go out from the side anyway. So I'll get my reinforcement back from side to, on the side rather, from the front to back. That'll provide that reinforcement. I'll still be able to put in my little, the retainer at the back that holds up the chain for the argon bottle, and then still be able to slide this in. And then I'll just put my tray probably right about here, put it on the 4 points, put in the main tray for the welder to sit up above here. So that's kind of how it's coming along. I think it's gonna work fine. Let me get these 2 pieces drilled in, start putting in the tray, and we'll go from there. So we have the sides raised up. Plenty of room now for the cooler in there. Next part is getting the tray in. One little thing to point out is that these ends here have captive hardware. Sorry, I covered that with a clamp. But there's a built-in nut welded into this frame on both ends. If you line that up with the 2 front and back vertical supports, then you keep the same geometry of that. Then, if you were to come look at this, and this is what I want to try to line up, I'd like to keep the geometry for that part of the bottle rest so that it comes up here. So what I'm going to do is, if you were to look, let's see, it is that hole right there that previously went into that when it set under. So if you line up the geometry of these 2, you got that hole lined up with that, then you have the tray, as far as it being fore and aft, in the right position as it was before, which will then put the back part of the tray, the built-in little stand for the argon bottle, in the right spot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run 1/4-inch bolts through there, each corner, and see how this is. Let me get those bolted in place, and honestly, I think we're going to have this plenty solid. There it sits, all done. Didn't take very long. Honestly, it's pretty strong. I remounted the tray to the very top, right there. The way this came, it's slightly canted down, which is nice. It kicks the control panel up towards your face a little bit better, so when you're standing there, you can see as you're making adjustments. But I've got it bolted in here. On the back, it's bolted all the way through. You only barely see them. I use just 1/4-inch bolts, but this is as strong as it was when it was sitting on the rail, so I don't see any real reason to have to reinforce this. This bottom right here, I'll probably put another fastener in there just to connect it. So let me set everything in there and see how it looks. There's a setup. I'm really happy with this. Gives me the angle I want to. Most importantly, gave me plenty of room down here for my water cooler. Everything's close by, so all the connections will be close to be able to go from the return from here back down to the tank. Plenty of ventilation around there for it to cool the fluid as it goes through. All in all, it should work well. I still have usage of the hooks on the side that I always did, and this side was always left to open. The previous welder was a multi-process, so that door opened, but nothing else there. That's it. Everything you see in here, I paid for out of my pocket. I am not sponsored by anyone. If there's anything you think I should do to it or anything I missed, please leave a comment below. If you have any other questions, again, leave a comment. I would love for people to subscribe and let me know any other content or anything else you'd like me to make. So thanks for stopping by and have a great day.